The sirens wailed through Colony 7's biodomes as Kira rushed through the archives, her fingers flying across the quantum storage drives. Above her, the protective shields flickered and pulsed against the Drachnid bombardment, each impact sending tremors through the reinforced walls. She had one job: save humanity's knowledge before it was lost forever. Archives must be secured in 3 minutes, the AI's calm voice announced overhead. Complete evacuation protocol initiated. Kira's hands trembled as she downloaded the last of the cultural databases. Sweat trickled down her neck, her archivist's uniform clinging to her skin in the humid air. The colony's life support systems were failing, their carefully maintained atmosphere beginning to destabilize. 2 minutes until complete shield failure. The AI updated, its voice eerily serene amid the chaos. Through the dome's transparent panels, she could see the Drachnid ships, massive crystalline structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They had appeared without warning 3 days ago, ignoring all attempts at communication. Now, Colony 7's population of 15,000 was down to less than 1,000 survivors. The download completed with a soft chime. Kira pulled the quantum core from its housing, a device no larger than her palm that contained 10,000 years of human knowledge and achievement. As she secured it in her pack, a new alarm blared, different from the others, more urgent. Warning: unauthorized genetic manipulation detected in archive section. Emergency containment initiated. Kira froze. She was the only one in the archive section. The scanner must be malfunctioning, but even as she had the thought, she felt it, a warmth spreading through her chest, unlike anything she'd experienced before. The archive's sealed doors began to close. Without thinking, Kira dove through the narrowing gap, rolling into the corridor beyond. Behind her, the massive doors slammed shut with a resounding boom. Archivist Kira, a new voice spoke, deeper than the AI's usual tone. Protocol Omega activated. Integration complete. The warmth in her chest intensified, and for a moment, Kira saw streams of data flowing across her vision. Star charts, mathematical formulas, engineering schematics she couldn't begin to understand. Then it was gone, leaving her gasping on the floor. What just happened? She whispered, but there was no response. The AI had gone silent. A massive explosion rocked the colony, and Kira stumbled to her feet. She had to reach the evacuation pods. The corridor ahead was eerily empty, emergency lights casting everything in a red glow. She ran, her footsteps echoing off the metal walls. As she rounded the corner to the evacuation bay, she nearly collided with Commander Reese, his usually pristine uniform now torn and stained with blood. Kira. He grabbed her shoulders, steadying her. The archives. She patted her pack. Secured. But something happened. The AI. It. Another explosion cut her off, closer this time. The commander pushed her toward the remaining pods. No time. You need to go now. Get that data to Central Command. But there are others. Most pods already launched. The rest. He glanced back the way she had come, his expression grim. We'll hold them off as long as we can. Go. Kira wanted to argue, to help somehow, but the warmth in her chest pulsed again, urging her forward. She climbed into the nearest pod, her hands shaking as she initiated the launch sequence. Through the pod's viewport, she watched Commander Reese sprint back toward the sound of fighting. The last thing she saw before the pod blasted free of the colony was a massive crystalline ship descending through the clouds, its surface rippling like liquid metal. The pod's AI plotted a course away from the colony, its engines straining against the planet's gravity. Kira pressed her hand against the viewport, watching as her home for the past 5 years grew smaller and smaller. Colony 7 security protocols breached. The pod's AI announced, beginning emergency transmission. Kira barely heard it. The warmth in her chest had become a steady pulse, beating in time with her heart. She pulled out the quantum core, studying its surface. It looked unchanged, but she could feel something was different. Something had changed in those final moments in the archive, and she was carrying more than just humanity's knowledge. As her pod accelerated toward the safety of deep space, Kira watched Colony 7 disappear into the distance. The Drachnid ships didn't pursue. They didn't need to. They had what they came for. Or so they thought. The warmth pulsed again, stronger this time, and Kira understood with sudden clarity. She wasn't just carrying data anymore. She had become something else, something the Drachnids hadn't anticipated. The last archivist of Colony 7 was now its most valuable survivor, carrying secrets even she didn't yet understand. The pod's engines hummed as it prepared for its first jump. Kira closed her eyes, feeling the strange new awareness flowing through her. Whatever had happened in the archive, whatever she had become, one thing was certain: her journey was just beginning, and the fate of humanity's knowledge rested in more than just the quantum core she carried. It rested in her. The escape pod's landing wasn't so much a landing as it was a controlled crash. Kira braced herself as the vessel plowed through red sand, its hull screaming in protest. When it finally stopped, she found herself staring up at an alien sky where 3 moons hung like pale ghosts in the purple atmosphere. Location: Kepler 186 F. The pod's AI croaked through damaged speakers. Warning: life support critical. External atmosphere: breathable. Temperature: 42 degrees Celsius. Local time. The AI died with a wheeze of static. Kira waited, counting her breaths, but it didn't return. She was alone. The warmth in her chest that had been her constant companion since leaving Colony 7 pulsed gently, as if reassuring her. She'd spent the 3-week journey trying to understand what had happened in the archives, but the strange awareness inside her remained mysterious, offering only fragments of information in dreams and sudden flashes of insight. Kira checked her supplies. 2 weeks of emergency rations, a portable water purifier, basic medical supplies, and the quantum core. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. According to the pod's last navigation report, she was at least 6 months away from the nearest human outpost, assuming it still existed. The pod's hatch released with a hiss of escaping air. Hot wind whipped sand into her face as she climbed out, her archivist's uniform offering little protection against the harsh environment. The landscape before her was a sea of red dunes stretching to the horizon, broken only by jutting spires of black rock that reached toward the alien sky. "Well," she muttered, securing her pack, "standing here won't get me anywhere." She picked a direction, east, following the rise of the smallest moon, and started walking. The warmth in her chest seemed to approve, growing slightly stronger. Over the past weeks, she'd learned to trust these subtle signals, even if she didn't understand them. By the time the first moon set, Kira's legs burned and her throat was raw despite the water she'd rationed. She found shelter in the shadow of a massive rock spire, its surface smooth as glass. As she settled against its base, the warmth in her chest suddenly flared. Images flooded her mind. The same landscape, but different. Where now there was only sand, she saw vast cities of crystal and light. The rock spire she rested against had once been part of a massive transportation hub, connecting colonies across the planet's surface. Kira gasped as the vision faded, leaving her trembling. "What are you trying to show me?" she whispered to the presence inside her. The warmth pulsed once but offered no further insights. A sound caught her attention, a low humming that seemed to come from the ground itself. She pressed her hand against the rock wall, feeling vibrations through her palm. Something was moving beneath the surface. The ground erupted 20 meters away, sending sand cascading in all directions. A massive form emerged, segmented, crystalline, its surface reflecting the purple sky in fractured patterns. It looked like a smaller version of the Drachnid ships that had attacked Colony 7. Kira didn't breathe, didn't move, as the creature's sensory arrays swept the area. The warmth in her chest had become a tight knot of energy, and somehow she knew this was what the Drachnids had been looking for. Not just the knowledge in the quantum core, but something far older, something that had been waiting in Colony 7's archives for millennia. The creature paused its scan, its crystalline segments rotating slowly. For a moment, Kira was certain it had detected her. Then, with a sound like chiming bells, it burrowed back into the sand, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Kira released her breath slowly, her heart pounding. She needed to move. The creature's presence confirmed her suspicions. This planet wasn't just a random emergency landing site. The pod's navigation had been guided here, either by the dying colony AI or by whatever now lived inside her. She waited until the second moon had risen before continuing her journey. The warmth in her chest now felt like a compass, pulling her towards something hidden in this vast wasteland. As she walked, more visions came to her, fragments of history that had been locked away in Colony 7's deepest archives. This planet had once been a hub of an ancient civilization, one that had mastered technologies humanity had only dreamed of. The Drachnids weren't invaders. They were scavengers, searching for the remnants of that lost power. And somehow, in those final moments in the archive, Kira had become connected to it all. She walked through the night, the three moons casting shifting shadows across the dunes. The visions became more frequent, showing her safe paths between the crystalline sentinels that patrolled beneath the sand. The warmth guided her around their hunting grounds, through hidden valleys where ancient technology still hummed beneath the surface. As the largest moon began to set, Kira crested a massive dune and stopped. Below her, half buried in the red sand, was a structure that couldn't have been made by nature or any human hand. It rose like a frozen wave of metal and crystal, its surface etched with patterns that seemed to shift in the moonlight. The warmth in her chest erupted into a sensation of pure energy, and Kira understood. This was what she had been led to. Not just a refuge from the hostile desert, but something more. Something that had been waiting for thousands of years. As she descended toward the structure, she saw movement in the sand. More crystalline creatures emerging. But these were different. They didn't scan for intruders or patrol the dunes. Instead, they formed a path before her, their surfaces glowing with soft blue light. Kira walked between them, her heart racing but her steps steady. The quantum core in her pack hummed in resonance with the creatures, and the warmth in her chest grew until it felt like she might burst with its energy. She reached the structure's base, where an entrance had appeared, or perhaps had always been there, waiting for her. As she stepped inside, lights began to activate, revealing corridors that seemed to go on forever. "Welcome, Archivist," a voice spoke, not in her ears, but directly in her mind. It was similar to Colony 7's AI, but older, vast beyond comprehension. "We have been waiting a very long time." Kira touched the wall beside her, feeling the same energy that flowed through her chest pulsing within the structure itself. "What is this place?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "This is where it began," the voice replied. "And now, with you, this is where it shall begin again." The corridor had lit up, beckoning her forward, and Kira took her first step into an adventure that would change not just her fate, but the fate of all humanity. The ancient facility hummed with power as Kira followed the glowing path deeper into its depths. The walls themselves seemed alive, shifting with patterns of light that responded to her presence. The warmth in her chest had become a steady thrum, resonating with the structure around her. "You carry within you the legacy." The voice in her mind continued. What your people called the archive was merely its vessel, waiting for the right moment, the right person. Kira paused before a vast circular chamber, the quantum core. "A fragment," the voice replied. "The true archive exists within you now, integrated with your consciousness. The Drachnids seek its power, but they cannot comprehend its true nature." The chamber came alive as she entered, holographic displays materializing around her. They showed images of the ancient civilization that had built this place, beings of pure energy and thought who had transcended physical form, the precursors, as the archive's knowledge named them. They achieved what they believed to be perfection, the voice explained as images flowed around her. But in their ascension, they lost something essential, the very thing that makes your kind unique. The displays shifted, showing the arrival of the first human colonies in this sector of space. We watched your species grow, struggle, adapt. You retained what we have forgotten, the capacity to feel, to dream, to hope even in darkness. Kira's mind raced as pieces began falling into place. Colony 7. It wasn't random, was it? The archive being there. No, your colony was built upon one of our last outposts. We waited, testing, observing. The archive needed more than just intelligence or strength. It needed something that only your kind could provide. The ability to understand both logic and emotion, to balance knowledge with wisdom. A new hologram appeared, showing the crystalline Drachnid ships. They are like us, or what we became. Beings of pure thought, seeking to reclaim what they believe is their birthright. But they have forgotten the most important lesson. Power without compassion leads only to destruction. Kira felt the weight of history pressing down on her. The warmth in her chest expanded, and suddenly she could see everything. The true scope of what the archive contained. It wasn't just data or technology. It was the accumulated wisdom of an entire civilization, waiting to be rediscovered and understood through human eyes. The integration is progressing faster than expected. The voice noted, "Your adaptation is remarkable." Before Kira could respond, an alarm echoed through the facility. The holographic displays flickered, showing multiple crystalline forms approaching through the desert above. "They have followed your path," the voice stated calmly. "The facility's defenses will not hold them for long." "What do they want?" Kira asked, though she already knew the answer. "They want what they believe you have stolen, the power to reshape reality itself. But they do not understand. The archive is not a weapon to be wielded. It is a responsibility to be carried." The facility shuddered as the first impacts struck its outer barriers. Kira could feel them through her connection to the structure. The Drachnids were trying to bore through the ancient defenses. "There is little time," the voice urged. "You must complete the integration. Only then will you have the power to choose the path forward." "Choose." Kira's voice shook slightly. "What choice?" The chamber's center opened, revealing a crystalline platform that pulsed with the same energy she felt inside her. The same choice we faced millennia ago. To ascend beyond physical form, gaining unlimited power, but losing touch with what makes you human. Or to find a different path, one we were too afraid to take. Another impact rocked the facility. The defenses were failing faster now. Above, she could hear the crystalline sounds of the Drachnids, cutting through layer after layer of ancient technology. "Why me?" Kira whispered, staring at the platform. "I'm just an archivist." "Precisely," the voice replied, and she could have sworn she heard a note of warmth in its ancient tones. "You understand the value of preservation, of learning from the past, rather than simply seeking to control it. You were chosen because you know that knowledge without wisdom is meaningless." The ceiling began to crack, crystals forming along its surface as the Drachnids breached the outer layers. Kira stepped onto the platform, feeling its energy sink with the warmth in her chest. "What happens now?" "Now," the voice said, "you must decide not just your fate, but the fate of two civilizations. The archive will show you both paths. The choice must be yours." The platform activated, surrounding Kira in a column of pure light. The warmth in her chest exploded into something beyond sensation. Pure knowledge, pure understanding. She saw everything. The rise and fall of the precursors, the emergence of the Drachnids, the potential futures branching out before her like rivers of light. And as the Drachnids finally breached the chamber, their crystalline forms refracting the platform's light into thousands of rainbow fragments, Kira understood what she had to do. The archive had chosen her not because she was special, but because she was human, with all the flaws, fears, and hopes that entailed. The knowledge of ages flowed through her, offering power beyond imagination. but with it came something the precursors had lost: the wisdom to know how to use it. The choice lay before her, and the fate of worlds hung in the balance. The chamber erupted in blinding light as Kira made her choice. Instead of ascending beyond her physical form as the precursors had done, she chose to embrace her humanity. The Archive's power flowed through her, not as a weapon, but as a bridge between worlds. Impossible! The leading Drachnid's crystalline voice resonated through the chamber. The power must be claimed. Kira stood within the column of light, her feet barely touching the platform. "You're wrong," she said, her voice carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. It was never about claiming power. It was about understanding it. The Archive's energy transformed around her, not into weapons or shields, but into pure communication. Images flooded the chamber, memories of the precursors before their ascension, moments of joy, love, discovery. She showed the Drachnids what they had forgotten, what they had lost in their pursuit of perfection. "We were like you once," she said, letting the Archive speak through her. "The precursors, before they chose to abandon their physical forms, they thought transcendence would bring them closer to perfection. Instead, it cost them their soul." The Drachnid's crystalline forms flickered, their perfect geometry wavering as ancient memories stirred within them. They had been part of the same civilization, a faction that had chosen a different path of ascension, becoming living crystal rather than pure energy. "Look," Kira commanded, projecting more images. "Look at what was lost." The chamber filled with scenes of human life. Children laughing, artists creating, scientists discovering, people loving and losing and hoping and dreaming. All the messy, imperfect, beautiful aspects of existence that the Drachnids had sacrificed in their quest for power. Breaking chains. The leading Drachnid approached Kira, its crystalline surface reflecting infinite fractals of light. "We sought perfection," it said, its voice carrying centuries of longing. "We thought power would fulfill us." "Power without purpose is empty," Kira replied. The Archive wasn't waiting for someone strong enough to claim it. It was waiting for someone who would understand why it shouldn't be claimed at all. The warmth in her chest expanded, connecting with the crystalline beings before her. Through this connection, she shared not just knowledge, but understanding. The Drachnids had been searching for a way to reclaim what they had lost, but they had been looking in the wrong place. "I offer you a choice," Kira said, extending her hand. "Not ascension or power, but return. Return to what you once were, what you could be again." The chamber hummed with possibility as the Archive's true purpose revealed itself. It wasn't a weapon or a tool of ascension. It was a bridge, a way back for those who had lost themselves in the pursuit of perfection. The leading Drachnid's crystalline form began to shift, its perfect geometry softening. Others followed, their forms changing as they accepted Kira's offer. The Archive's energy flowed through them all, not destroying or controlling, but healing, restoring what had been lost. "The cycle ends here," Kira declared as the transformation spread through the Drachnid fleet above. Not with conquest or transcendence, but with understanding. The facility filled with light as thousands of Drachnids chose to return to their original forms, abandoning their crystalline shells. The Archive's power flowed through Kira, not consuming her humanity, but enhancing it, showing her a way forward that neither the precursors nor the Drachnids had imagined. Months later, as ships from Central Command finally arrived at the facility, they found something unprecedented: humans and former Drachnids working together, using the Archive's knowledge not to ascend beyond their physical forms, but to build something new. The facility had become a center of learning, where the wisdom of the precursors was studied not for power, but for understanding. Kira stood at the facility's highest point, watching the 3 moons rise over the desert. The warmth in her chest remained, but it was different now, not a separate presence, but a part of her, just as her humanity was now part of the Archive. "We were wrong," a voice said beside her. It belonged to Ven, once the leading Drachnid, now returned to his original form. "We thought power would fill the emptiness inside us, but it was our humanity we were missing all along." Kira smiled, touching the wall of the facility and feeling its ancient energy respond. The precursors built all this trying to become more than they were, she said. They never realized that what they were was already enough. The archive hummed within her, no longer a burden to be carried or a power to be wielded, but a reminder of an essential truth. True wisdom lies not in transcending our nature, but in understanding and embracing it. In the desert below, new structures were rising. Not crystalline monuments to perfection, but organic buildings that blended the best of human and drachnid knowledge. The red sands that had once held only ancient secrets now cradled new life, new possibilities. This was her legacy, Kira realized, not as the last archivist of Colony 7, but as the first of something new. A bridge between past and future, between species and civilizations, between power and wisdom. The warmth in her chest pulsed one final time, not as a separate entity, but as part of her own heartbeat. The archive had found its true purpose, not in changing what humanity was, but in helping them understand who they could become. Above her, the three moons of Kepler 186 continued their eternal dance, witnesses to the end of one story and the beginning of another. The desert wind carried the sounds of construction and conversation, of life continuing in all its beautiful imperfection. And Kira, the archivist who had become a bridge between worlds, smiled at the future unfolding before her, a future built not on the pursuit of power, but on the strength of understanding, the wisdom of acceptance, and the enduring power of human heart. The end.